Welcome to this week's edition of the Pete Mezzetti Show. I'm Pete Mezzetti. My guest this evening is Dr. Glenn Longarini, who's the Executive Director of the CIAC.
Pete,
Sir!
great to see you again.
Buddy,
Thanks
how
for
are
having
you?
me.
Long time no see.
It's been a minute.
It has been a minute. What's new?
You know, things are going real well. We had a great year last year, some exciting things over the summer with some new opportunities with coaches working with kids out of season over the summer. And we're back for an exciting start of the fall. We've had great weather. Football kicks off to join the rest of the sports that are already in progress this Thursday. So we're in good shape, Pete.
Ready to kick off football season?
We're ready. You know, again, great season last year. A lot of exciting games throughout the playoffs. We start this year with a number of Alliance games. The Alliance, I think, has done such a great job of working with the leagues to get competitive matchups with like-sized schools, similar schools of talent, where we've seen some really highly competitive matches in some of our non-league games, and many of our schools kick off with those Alliance games this weekend.
And what is an Alliance game?
Yeah, the Alliance came about quite a few years ago, and that was some work with the SEC Commissioner, Al Carbone, some work with Jim Bunicor from up at Ledyard High School, and Dave Johnson, who was with the Southwest Conference. He was the Executive Director of the SWC at the time. And really what they were looking at, also Dave Schultz from the CIAC, and what they were looking at is, you know, they were all trying to fill their non-league game schedule.
Right.
But they had within leagues such variety and so many mismatches of schools to play that they worked with each other to do matchups and contests that would be competitive for the school. So, you know, it wasn't one team, you know, getting beat by 30, 40 points and try to have those competitive matchups. And the SEC, FCIAC, and SWC were really the three leagues that started that out. And now, you know, the CCC, the ECC, pretty much almost everybody is involved with it now, and it produces some outstanding games.
And from what I understand, with the opening of high school football, I think we have a game of the week.
Yeah, that was another exciting thing that we kicked off last year was the NFHS Network CIAC Game of the Week. The NFHS Network has been an incredible partner with CIAC, especially when we were getting hit with COVID games and first coming back to that, where we had seating capacities and fan attendance limited. For people to be able to log on and watch their grandchildren play, nieces, nephews, some cases their kids play. It really provided an outstanding service for our member school student athletes and parents. To take that to the next level, we wanted to, again, highlight some schools, make sure that we were going throughout the leagues and highlighting games. We've received tremendous feedback on this, mostly from relatives who live out of state, you know, who can't get out to see their kids, and to be able to now tune in and watch them. We have our voice of the NFHS Network is the coach, George DeMayo.
Oh, one of my favorites.
Legendary broadcaster, longtime radio voice, and we're just thrilled to have George on board, along with the other NFHS Network announcers and staff, to bring a wide variety of games to the people here in Connecticut.
And so, for those of us that don't know, obviously you and I know, what is the NFHS?
The NFHS is the National Federation of High Schools. They provide a wide variety of services to state associations, you know, all the way from this network and streaming services that we just spoke about to actually providing the rules committees that develop the play-in rules from our games, and everything logistically in between, sports medicine advisory committees to help us look at things like on a national level, like concussion management, heat management, wide variety of health and safety topics there as well. So the National Federation, led by my predecessor, Dr. Carissa Niehoff. We're very fortunate to have Dr. Niehoff in that position and leading us across the country.
And I believe she is based in Indianapolis.
She is in Indianapolis, and I think her schedule probably carries her outside of Indianapolis
Right.
more than she's home. But she has just been a tremendous influence,
Yeah.
has done a great job in working with professional associations, whether that be the NFL, NHL, the NBA, to look at how their resources can help. And again, our student athletes are the ones who aspire to get to these levels and play at those levels. So it's great.
Now let's talk. I know we talked about football. Let's talk about some of the other fall sports that we have on tap.
Yeah, again, just really excited. We've been going already with golf. Fall golf has been a tremendous success since we introduced that. It's a great time of year to come out and play golf. Courses are in great shape. Weather is beautiful. So that has been going for several weeks now and has been outstanding. We have our boys and girls soccer is up and running. Boys and girls cross country are out and running. Girls swimming is in the pool. They're competing, as well as the girls volleyball out there participating already as well.
Now we do have to do a little bit of a shout out, talking about girls cross country,
Okay.
to one of our favorite people.
Ms. Kaminsky.
There you go.
Christy, yeah, Christy, who of course worked with you for quite some time,
Yes.
and we were fortunate to have her talents produce media stories for us over at CIAC, working very closely with another friend of ours, John Holt.
Yes.
Another Emmy Award-winning broadcaster. They have now surpassed 100 student stories where they've been able to get out to schools. I think they're around the 125 mark of being able to take the stories of our student athletes, the courage that they have, the perseverance, the adversity that they've been through, and in some cases just heroic type events that they have been able to succeed with. And very grateful for the talents of Christy and John and telling the stories of our kids in Connecticut.
Now I believe, looking at your website, doing research for tonight, I believe there's something that you guys also do with Surf Pro.
We do. Surf Pro is one of our partners and a very valuable sponsor to us at CIAC. Again,
Right.
a lot of the work that we do, we wouldn't be able to bring out to our student athletes and provide them with the experiences and the venues that they get to play in without these sponsors as well. So Surf Pro
Yep.
works with us to highlight an athlete of the week.
Yep.
And so again, that goes transcends our sports, and so it's not just one sport in particular, but we're able to highlight outstanding performances of kids each week, from our first day in the fall of competition all the way to our last day in the spring.
Exactly. And also, let's talk about upcoming venues for championships.
Yeah, that is always a piece, Pete, that we try to bring our kids to as many collegiate and professional venues as we can, and without having a major league or pro sports team in the state. That's where we see our neighbors in New Jersey, New York, and Massachusetts. With these venues, have some outstanding stuff. But we are so fortunate here in Connecticut to have the people within our group really dedicated to the high school sports in Connecticut. So we have the Hartford Athletic has been a tremendous partner for soccer. To be able to bring our boys and girls soccer players to a pro venue at the Hartford Athletic, and their staff and working with us, that is an experience that is second to none for those athletes. They just go above and beyond in treating those kids to what is a memorable experience on that championship day. Of course, our longtime partners in basketball at the Mohegan Sun Arena, that they continue to support high school sports and CIAC is such a blessing for us. That is one of, if not the top reserved arena of its size in the country.
Really?
And so that they continue to make space and have a level of importance for our kids just speaks volumes of the staff and the management and ownership at Mohegan Sun Arena and what they do for us. Football, of course, we have great partners here in the state with being able to give kids experiences these last couple of years at Rensselaer Field and Pratt & Whitney Stadium and over at CCSU. If you've been to a game at CCSU, I mean, it is loud.
Is it?
It is loud. I mean, they pack that. It's about 5,000 seats over there. The band's playing and everything. It is an awesome experience for the kids over there. So very fortunate with all the facilities that we have.
Now, I've seen the Hartford Athletics Stadium on TV watching the soccer games.
Yeah.
Is it as cool as you see on TV?
Oh,
being there in person?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The field is gorgeous.
Is it?
Just a state-of-the-art turf field. Plays so true. The kids absolutely love playing on that stadium and that field. For folks like yourself and the media, outstanding facilities. So the media has great view, plenty of power outlets. They accommodate and stay in late at night so people can get their stories done and written and get submitted. Great booths and separate booths for the NFHS announcers to be able to do their broadcasts in as well. The locker room facilities for the kids, again, just outstanding. They get to experience this professional level stadium. Again, the workers, the concessions that they do is terrific as well. Even the police in Hartford and their work with us with the parking lots and the surrounding areas, can't say enough about them, but the kids really have a first-class experience from the moment that they arrive on their bus to the moment they leave.
Now, how's the experience up at the Rent?
Outstanding.
Is it? I've never been up there.
Oh, you got to come up, Pete. It's,
Right.
They just do a tremendous job. Of course, the home of our Yukon Huskies, but again, so many other events that take place there as well, whether it's U.S. Women's National Team Soccer, Men's National Team Soccer, the NCAA Final Four lacrosse was there as well. So, I mean, the kids are playing on a very historic venue, and that's part of the joy of bringing the kids, whether it's the Hartford Athletic, a place like Rensselaer Field, an arena like Mohegan Sun, where they're playing on the surface where many of their idols have played on, and that brings another special component to it. But Yukon and Rensselaer Field really, from use of their locker rooms, there's 4 locker rooms that we're able to use there. So every team that comes up, has their own locker room. There's no waiting. They treat the officials outstanding. And again, you can't beat the media accommodations for what they have within the stadium there. It's a great team to work with.
Would you mind sticking around for another segment?
Look forward to it.
All right, we'll be right back.
What rhymes with great?
Participate.
Where does greatness start?
Here, in the classroom.
On the stage.
In the pool.
On the field.
Where will your greatness take you?
To better grades.
To more friends.
Yeah! Be great. Participate!
For decades, I've taught you everything I know. How to safely build a fire, and how to control the flames. But I can only teach wildfire prevention. Only you can prevent wildfires.
And welcome back to this week's edition of the Pete Mezzetti Show. I'm Pete Mezzetti, sitting here with Glenn Longarini from the CIAC. Welcome back, sir.
Thank you, Pete.
Thank you, sir. All right, so I think we should probably start talking this segment about, you want to talk about sportsmanship or transgender?
Your choice, Pete.
Go for it.
Let's go. We'll talk transgender first.
All right.
And that's it's always a hot topic here in Connecticut.
It is.
It is something that really not a week goes by that I don't get a phone call from a colleague around the country who's asking us questions of how we're handling things and what we're doing. Of course, we've been in federal court for about 5, almost 6 years now on a case. That case did go to, was originally dismissed, went to the Second Circuit, and the Second Circuit had sent it back to Connecticut.
Okay.
So we were just in court at the beginning of August and making an argument to dismiss. So we're waiting to hear the ruling from the judge on those arguments to dismiss right now. But the transgender topic and cases has been something that across every level of sport we're hearing from now.
Right.
Yeah, with the Olympics this past summer, topic of conversation. NCAA, topic of conversation. High school sports, even younger, it's been a topic of conversation. But I think what's important for people is to do their best to educate themselves on the impact at various levels. Listen, I have a 6-year-old daughter.
Right.
And almost every youth sport that she plays in, they're mixed groups. There's boys, there's girls, there's playing, and there's no difference between the skill level really and what they're doing at those age groups. So, you really have to take into context what you're talking about. In our particular case, this is about girls track, and it was about 2 specific transgender student athletes who competed. And what we hear so many times from the plaintiffs in this case is, about the championships and the races that the transgender individuals won. What they don't talk about is in the 4 years they competed, yes, they won 35% of the championships. That means the cisgender girls won 65% of the championships.
Yes.
They talk about the races that the cisgender girls and the plaintiffs lost to the transgender girls, but they don't talk about the championships that they won and beat the transgender girls in.
Exactly.
They argue that transgender individuals playing in high school sports takes away scholarships from kids at the NCAA and the college level. To my knowledge, there is not a state association or a high school in the country that awards a collegiate athletic scholarship to a kid.
Right.
Those scholarships come from the colleges and universities. It's the NCAA's rules that they have to abide by and they have to adhere to. And there's no college coach that is recruiting a kid that does not know or understand what that student's gender and situation is.
Right.
And in the case that we're talking about, the 2 athletes that we had here in Connecticut did not go on and compete in college, yet the plaintiffs all competed, went on and competed in college. So
really? Again,
when you look at the facts, well, whose scholarship opportunity did they take?
Right.
They didn't compete, they did.
Yeah, right.
And then the other thing, we hear about oftentimes is, about, well, they don't have the notoriety or the recognition of that championship, right? So Pete, if I ask you, who won the Texas football championship in Division 1A last year? You don't know.
I don't
know.
No.
If we asked you in, let's see, in 2019, who won the Class LL state championship in Connecticut football? Do you recall?
No, do you?
I do.
Okay.
And so it's one of the more kind of famous ending stories. It was Newtown High School that won the state championship
Really?
right around the anniversary of the travesty of the Sandy Hook shooting. And there was a lot of conversation with Newtown of whether we were going to play that weekend, but they wanted to play. And they believe they were playing Darien. And in the closing seconds of the game, as time expired, they hit a Hail Mary pass through the fog as the rain lifted, and the kid from Newtown, you couldn't script it and write it any better than the way that game ended. And that's part of our point is if if some of these fairy tale endings and stories and most
Right.
prolific stories that we've had in the state, and if we don't recall and know those championships,
Right.
you know, the championship in the moment, you know, to that individual, to that student, you know, may mean something, but to think that it impacts the ability of somebody to get a job, you know, years down the road, I think it's a stretch, Pete, you know, and that's where we're trying to bring some sensibility, some reality, and education to this whole process as well, and understand, you know, what is in the best interest of kids, what truly has impact. And as I said, you know, 35% of state championships won, 15% of second place finishes, and 6% of third place or less in the time that those girls competed. They did not dominate.
No.
You know, and when we look at a demographic, transgender teen students are amongst the highest demographic of suicide rate that exists in the country. So we have to think, what is the purpose of education-based athletics, and where do we strike that balance to make sure that we're doing what's in the best interest of kids?
Now, as far as high school sports goes, do you think pickleball is going to become a high school sport?
I don't think pickleball is going to become
No?
a high school sport. I think the emerging high school sport that is getting much more play at the club level right now is girls flag. I think girls flag football is, I'd
Really?
say the CCC and some of the groups out in the SEC have done an outstanding job with some tournaments and short seasons of girls flag. There is tremendous interest. I think that is going to keep growing.
Yeah.
But you know, pickleball, you know, I still think amongst the you know, our age demographic of student athletes, you know, I don't know that I see that. It's popular in our PE classes.
Yeah.
You know, but I don't see that emerging as a high school sport anytime soon.
Speaking of high school sports, one of my next door neighbors goes to the local high school in and around this area. It's the same high school I actually graduated from in Clinton.
Okay, Morgan?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And last year, my mom was like, "Come on, let's go to a high school sporting event." He fences.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about a cool sport.
Yeah.
I've never seen it before. I'm like, this is cool.
Yeah. You know, Pete,
It's
we have
quick, though.
It is. We have a number of clubs that run that we don't sanction as full sports. So you
Right.
do need to meet a certain participation criterion. Our schools need to have a certain percentage of our schools need to have the sport at the varsity level,
Right.
to be considered a sport. So things like fencing, rugby,
Yeah.
crew, or rowing. These are extremely popular, been out there. One of the most notable is probably girls ice hockey. You know, and that's one that we've actually offered and have said we'd be happy to sponsor that as a sport. But the hockey teams and the coaches feel that, you know, that the way that it's set up right now is a club, because they have kids participating on teams from, you know, miles away with different schools, and so they're concerned about, you know, whether or not those type of co-ops and everything could continue, or the way that they have it structured, where kids are skating for their school team a couple days a week, their club team a couple days a week. So they've chosen to not seek sponsorship of girls ice hockey yet, but that's another club sport that exists within Connecticut that is an emerging sport and could become a CIAC sport if there's interest.
Now, how does it become a CIAC sport? There's probably a process.
Yeah, we would have, you know, a league, and in most cases, it's a group of leagues that would come together and request the committee to examine the the sport and whether or not it fits the criteria to be able to offer this, and then how can we start working this into a sport. It may begin with an individual tournament or an invitational tournament, and then bring it into a state tournament and create the bylaws that would go around that, the sports packets that would go around it. The most recent was about 3 years ago, where we brought girls wrestling into sports status, and so they had an invitational girls wrestling tournament, and now their girls wrestling win weight class medals just like the boys do. In fact, they wrestle side by side on the mats during the Open Championship.
Really?
Yeah, it's
that's
outstanding.
Cool.
Very cool.
That's cool.
Yeah.
How has the sport year been affected with what happened in Oxford?
Fortunately, I'd say that the school that was probably affected the most from a facility standpoint and an athletic standpoint was Wilton High School. They had some damage to fields, so they had to seek some alternative sites to play games. Their neighbors in Weston and New Canaan really stepped up for them and allowing them to come out and hold practices on their sites, where they found some other venues where they can go out and play their games. But their stadium field is still not ready for practice or play. In Oxford, fortunately, the schools were elevated. So the facilities were not damaged at all.
Right.
But the roads and the pathways to get people there is really what took a toll. Oxford is actually my hometown. That's where I was raised. My parents still live in Oxford.
Is it?
About
a
third of a mile from the high school. So so it was very staying attuned with what was happening there as well. So they were able to get back to school last Wednesday, and fortunately for them, they only missed 5 days, but their sport teams only missed 2 days, and they were able to get kids back to campus for practices. So through this whole thing, nobody missed a day where they became off schedule to have their first scrimmages and competitions. So very fortunate in what happened there, and just again, tremendous job by our community leaders, our state leaders. I know in Oxford, the first selectman, the superintendent did an outstanding job in working and communicating with people there to get things back as quick as they could, and to see the repairs that have been done to roads in the communities impacted by this. Southbury was hit very hard as well. Middlebury area, and what they did to get those roads back and operational for kids to get to school. Those communities just did an outstanding job. And the emergency responders, just the heroism and the stories that you've seen of rescues that took place during that flooding. Can't thank them enough for the work they did.
Glenn Longarini, we're about to run out of time, so before we do, I want to thank you for coming down.
Pleasure, Pete.
Hopefully we'll see you soon.
Sounds good.
All right, on behalf of Glenn Longarini, I'm Pete Mezzetti. Thank you, good night. We'll see you next week.